I think that enrollment probably started out in a really bad place because essentially, you know how we have words like adultism? There's a word, I'll call it bloodism. So it was determined that in order to be identified as a native, and it was almost like a bloodline, that you had to be assigned a number, like a concentration camp number, and then you had to be determined how much blood you had. And so it actually was a very inhumane thing to do. But as the time went on in the linear world that we live in, it was tied to the land, that you couldn't be seen as an Indian unless you had a number and you had blood quantum. And in the end result, at the end of the day, it's not a good thing, because if it's based on blood quantum and the way fractions work, if you marry outside of your tribe, eventually the blood quantum is going to go down. And then there's not going to be any more. And actually, there are some literature sites that actually say that's what the government intended, that eventually that we would bleed out, in a sense, and that we wouldn't have blood quantum. And then the government wouldn't have that trust responsibility. So and the way that the tribes are addressing that is that they're turning to what they call lineal descendancy, which is stating that if you can tie back to a certain ancestral role, or something will document that you were part of that tribe, usually it's a role, then you're just part of that lineal descendancy, which makes more sense in the long run. And then the challenge for that the young people that are listening to will have to figure out is, how do you tie that and layer it so that some people will be allowed to vote because they live on the reservation, and who will be allowed to share in land claims. And so that will be a very long discussion that the young people that are listening to this, especially the Native young people, they'll have to really think and pray on that. How do we end up changing that as we go forward in history? Yeah.